we are studying the Agnischama Indraschame Anuvaka. There are 20 entities in this Anuvaka who are coupled with Indra. Agnischama Indraschame, Agni and Indra, Somaschama Indraschame, Soma and Indra. So all these various entities are coupled with Indra. So you may recall that I gave the etymology of the word Indra in this context, because Indra has got to be parsed depending on the context. For example, if you are talking about Indra as the one who gives the pleasure of the sense organs, happiness to the sense organs, that means you see something pleasant and you are happy with that sight, then it gives you a joy. And that joy comes from the Sanskrit root ind, indati. Ind means to give pleasure, to give happiness. Rati gives. So when you actually get happiness and pleasure from a sensory perception, then it is Indra as the one who gives you the pleasure of whatever, because that's all Indra means, one who gives pleasure, whatever be the source. So the idea is that intrinsically nothing has a pleasure or pain in it, isn't it? Intrinsically there is nothing. Say for example, suppose you see something unpleasant. The unpleasantness is not in the thing. Or you see something very happy and pleasant, it is not in the thing. It is how you perceive whether something is pleasant or unpleasant. And therefore, the experience of having something being pleasant or unpleasant, where is it located? It is actually located within ourselves and not in the object. So therefore, this Indra has got to be part of our own personality. So by developing an attitude of using your sense organs, where you will always see something good, then in that case Indra is the one who gives you joy and pleasure. Indati, Indati, and then one who gives Rati, who gives. So that is one way of looking at it. But in this context we cannot use that Indra, because here it is idam dra. That means I now know. So even using the same metaphor, there is an object and that object is giving you joy and pleasure. Your experience of pleasure, when articulated in number of words, then it means now I know that it is a pleasant object. And therefore this whole Anuvaka is a meditation for all of us, that we should look at the Adhidaiva of the Srishti. As I many times have mentioned, Adhyatmika, Adhibhautika and Adhidaiva, there are three ways of experiencing the world. This experience is seeing the shining attitude within yourself. Adhi means supported by Daiva, that which shines. So this Indra, who is the Adhidaiva, has to be coupled with each one of these 20 entities that we are talking about. Agni, Agnischama, Indraschame, Somaschama, Agni, Soma, etc., etc. So these 20 coupled with Indra, what does it help us? It helps us in doing what is known as the Virat Upasana. Virat means it is the universe, an Upasana or a contemplation on the universals. Why should we contemplate on the universe and on the universal? It is because unless we contemplate on something very, very huge, big and enormous, our mind will be very, very small. How to make sure that our heart expands, our mind expands, our vision expands? It can expand only when you see at something very expansive. So what is the feeling you will get when you look at a small puddle of water on the street and you look at the whole ocean? What is the difference in your experience? As soon as you see the ocean, you are awestruck by its hugeness, and at the same time, your mind comes standstill, looking at that expanse. Similarly, when you look at the sky. So this Virat Upasana is, in the whole of this Anuvaka, is how we can use the microcosm and then expand it to the macrocosm. In other words, how can we make our small, limited vision and mind into a universal vision and mind? Very, very profound Anuvaka. So this Virat Upasana, now when you classify this Anuvaka, it can be classified in the following manner. Number one, you can group all the Jyotir Devatas. What do we mean by Jyoti? Jyoti means light. That which gives light from outside, and that gives light from within yourself. So these Jyotir Devatas are 6 in number out of the 20 that are meditated upon in this Anuvaka. And they are Agni, Agnischama Indraschame, Ashwini Devatas, Ashvinauchama Indraschame, Soma, Somaschama Indraschame, Savita, then Pushan and Mitra. There are 6 deities who are representing different levels and intensities and purposes of illumination. Not all light is same. For example, the light we are sitting under is not the same as the sunlight. It is not the same as the moonlight, even though they are all light. Isn't it? In the presence of all these things, all of these pale into insignificance in the presence of the Atma Jyoti. Yena bhasa, yasya bhasa, sarvamidam vivati. By whose shining, everything else is shined. So therefore, here we have got to see the 6 gradations of illumination in Agni, Ashwini Devata, Soma, Savita, Pushan and Mitra. Then the second set of the classification are 2 Jnana Devatas. And the Jnana Devatas are Saraswati and Brihaspati. Then the third are 5 elemental and natural Devatas, Varuna, Vishnu, Marut, Vishvedevas and Prithvi. Then we have got 4 Antariksha and Digdevatas. Antariksha means of the intermediate region and of the directions, the 10 directions. They are Antariksha, Dyauhu, Disha and Murdha. So we have got 4 deities of the Antariksha Devatas. Then we have got 3, what is left is 3. These 3 are those who create. The creative Devatas are whatever is left. Tvashtra, Dhata and Prajapati. So when you classify this Anuvaka into these categories, then in each one of those categories, you must be able to say, Idam Dra, this I saw, this I know. So you look at all the various shades of lights, Jyotir Devatas, and then say, now I know these Devatas, now I know Saraswati and Brihaspati, now I know Varuna, Vishnu, etc. Then once you actually classify all these deities in these mantras, now you can start contemplating on each one of these at 3 levels again. That means in the Adibhautika, that means in the environment, as manifested through the various shades of nature. Because again, if you look at the earth, it is not just earth. Earth can be further classified into mountain and into a desert, and number of ways you can classify the earth also. So in each one of that, we should be able to see the Prithvi Devata, for instance. So now you saw the Adi Bhautika, then you also will know how each one of them contributes to our existence. If there was no desert, then life will come to an end. If there is no ocean, life will come to an end. If there is no mountain, life will come to an end. There is nothing in the creation that is redundant. Then suddenly, as soon as we realize that, then we will start getting an enormous amount of devotion to the Adhyatmika, Adibhautika and the Adidaivika. Then you start journeying inward, and then you will have the Adhyatmika vision. The Adhyatmika vision is all of these things exist in me. When I was speaking on Katha Upanishad the other day, I was mentioning, for example, I can take this in my hand. Therefore, is my ability to grasp more powerful? Is it not more powerful than this piece of object? It is. It is not just my ability to grasp is not limited to one single object, isn't it? Any object I will be able to grasp. So that means more than an object, a particular physical indriya, the physical part of my body is greater, subtler, more profound. Isn't it? Now my hand can pick up this one, but the hand by itself cannot pick up unless there is the mind which tells you to pick this up now. Next time you pick up the book. So there is also the mind behind it. So is not the mind larger and bigger than your hand and its ability? It is. So now just imagine, just think of the entire universe. That entire universe can be at once kept in your mind, at once can be internalized in your mind. So the universe is smaller than your mind. Isn't it? Though spatially we think that the universe is enormous, that I am only a speck in the universe, and though you think in the expanse of time, my 100 years is something that goes off in rounding error, isn't it? But still, now when you think of this, the entire infinite time, in a given instance, you can experience in your own mind, in the Antakarana. And therefore the Antakarana is bigger than the Maya, bigger than time. Antakarana is bigger than the space. So what has your Antakarana become? Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan. It has become smaller than the minuter, smaller than the smallest, and bigger than the biggest. When you see that, you can say, Idam Dra. I saw this, now I know this. So therefore, to continue and then confirm this experience, that there is no exclusion, because a rule says every rule has an exception. Then does this rule has an exception? You have to discover that. To discover that, what you do is you take these 20 entities, classify them in the 6 ways that I talked about, and once you classify them and discover that all of them can be accommodated in your heart, and more. And more. That's the ecstasy to which the Kavi, the Rishi of the Anuvaka is going. Phenomenal Anuvaka. So now, the next thing is, as religious people, because this can bring us an attitude of arrogance. I saw, now I know. So when that arrogance comes, that's the downfall of the person. And therefore now, there is a tone in the whole of this, because yajnena kalpantam. We should not forget that all of these things be created so that I can worship. I want to worship Agni. I want to worship Soma. I want to worship Brihaspati. I want to worship. All of them are within me, and they are constantly expressing themselves. These Devata Shaktis are constantly expressing themselves through my Karanas. Karanas are my limbs, my sense organs. Are they taking turn? Are they standing in line saying, okay, Indra, Agni, you go and do your job, and then Soma is waiting? Because what is the sequence of the mantra? Agnischama Indraschame Somaschama Indraschame. So is it like there is a line saying, Agni, you do your job, and then the rest of the people will be sitting quiet, and then Indra will, and then Soma will come, and then Brihaspati will come? You will discover that all of them will be acting simultaneously without crowding each other. How do we know that they are not crowding each other? Because what your foot can do, what your feet can do, the hand will not appropriate that. Because if you try to walk with your hands, then it becomes yoga, or it becomes, isn't it? It's not called as normal walking. You can walk with your hands, right? You can do that. But that misappropriation will not happen. But at the same time, all of them act simultaneously. Just as all these devatas act simultaneously to give you a world experience of the world, all these devatas also act simultaneously to give you an experience of Adhyatmika, Adibhautika, Adidaivika. That's another glory. You experience all the three simultaneously. You don't have to isolate, now I am experiencing Agni, now I am experiencing Soma. That also doesn't happen. So how did they cooperate with each other? Remember Aikamatya Sukta? Deva bhagam yatha purve sanjanana upasate. Just as all the devatas come together, sanjanana, with one mind, upasate, function. So even socially, interpersonal relationships also, this has got a great value. This Anuvaka has a great value. Because every member of the team should empower every other member of the team to function, and then this member should contribute the very best without coming to loggerheads with the other members. Isn't it? Suppose Agni said, I am most important, and then if he takes over, usurps all the power, he will burn the world. If Varuna takes over everything, he will flood the world. But why is it there is a balance? So this can also be looked at as how a team should function. Then, when this simultaneous experience of all the Karanas, simultaneous experience of Adhyatmika, Adibhautika, Adidaivika takes place, then we will get an insight into the relationship between Jivatma and Paramatma. Because Jivatma is the functioning expression of Paramatma. Paramatma is the enabling force for the Jivatma. And when you know this relationship between Jivatma and Paramatma, you will get Swaswarupa Darshanam. You will see yourself. To that depth, this Anuvaka takes us. Though on the surface of it, it looks like, okay, a laundry list of 20 deities. But once you go deeper into that, you will see that every expression of energy, every single expression of energy, either in the microcosm or in the macrocosm, is due to this enormous consciousness called Brahma Chaitanyam. It is because of this enormous consciousness all these things are working in perfect harmony. You can refer to more details in Kenopanishad. In Kenopanishad, what was the situation? Indra thought he is the best. Agni thought he is the best. Then Vayu thought he is the best. They call me Matar Ishva. They call me Jataveda. So they give their curriculum vitae. And then comes Devi Haimavati, and then it's like a flash. So therefore, this also takes us to that level. One other question that will come to us is, the poet could have just used one deity and say, iti purvavat, we have got a standard methodology of saying, iti purvavat. We use this in Shastra all the time. That means the next one, refer back. It is like that. Next one, look at that. So, are you able to see? Then are you able to illumine an object with your seeing? And then you give an explanation. Now next thing is, can you hear? Refer back to the logic we discussed. Isn't it? So why give 20? Because the Veda has got to be terse. Veda cannot repeat itself. So why all these 20 are given? It is because of the 6 classifications. On the one hand, if you go back and look at the classification, there are some which are gross, there are some which are subtle, subtler and subtlest. Because how can you experience the presence of Saraswati and Brihaspati? It is the most subtle of all devatas. That's why Saraswati, even the river Saraswati, is called Guptagamini, one who is subterranean. If you go to Triveni Sangama in Allahabad, they will say that there are 3 rivers here. Saraswati river is not visible. Similarly, Saraswati, the knowledge that flows to us, the Atma Jnana that flows to us, is not concretely visible, but experienced. So now, as you see, there is subtle, subtler and subtlest classification of all the deities. This has to be done because there is a rule. If you go to Brahma Sutras, in the 6th chapter, Adhikarana 6.1.1, there is a sutra which says, Avratti rasakrit upadeshat. Avrattihi asakrit upadeshat means repetition for the sake of practicing dhyana or meditation. It is necessary to repeat a number of times. If you don't repeat it a number of times, dhyana will not be perfected. The next question we have to take is, if it is only a question of repetition, that repetition is called japa. But then how can you use the word dhyana? We will resolve that issue in the next class.